So what I would like to do is I would like to do the best that I can to get the information out and to promote Ives as we go into primary day. As I record this, it is Sunday and the election is Tuesday. So if you are in Illinois and you hear this, go vote for Ives, get all of your friends to vote for Ives, and do everything you can to get involved, because if this goes to the primary, I mean, if Rauner wins the primary, we're going to have little to no choice in Illinois, and things are going to go back to cronyism politics. Okay, so the first one that I want to talk about is Dump Durbin. Now, I know that he's not in election this time, but because he has the power of incumbency, the only way we can beat him is through the Chinese water torture method. Day in and day out, repetition of the facts, so that by the time the election gets here, when he is being voted on, I believe that's in 2020, we will have an opportunity to set the ship right and dump Durbin. Durbin is the second ranking Democrat in the Senate. He is an ultra left-wing liberal. Not only is he pro-abortion, but he is pro-partial birth abortion. Now, in the state of Illinois, we have basically 2 Democratic counties and the rest are Republican. But those counties are so large, Cook County and East St. Louis County, that pretty much trumps the rest of the state. And the only time Republicans win is when some of the independents in those areas vote Republican. One of the things that Rauner did before he came in and at his own expense is he had some of the voter rolls gone over at his expense and by his staff, so that a lot of the phonies got out of there. And even with that, there were in the state of Illinois, and I believe the number was in the 30s, 30 some counties where there were more votes counted than there were eligible people to vote. So that means that they would have like 116% voter turnout. I mean, that's not humanly possible unless there's illegal votes or ballot stuffing going on. So Rauner took steps, and that's how he won. He squeaked it out, but he did that by being smart. Now, the press in Illinois is liberal. No surprise. And the last time around, and this is where we can beat Durbin on pro-abortion and partial birth abortion stance that he takes. Now, the last time around, the press gave him a free pass. He was never, and I read all the articles, I watched and listened to all the interviews. They never, ever asked him about his stand on abortion, because that won't play in Illinois. I mean, from outside Cook County down, that will not fly. And pollsters are now learning that even the black community, the Democrats' bread and butter, are not for abortion. They used to be, but they are changing their position. So if day in and day out we can pound this home to everybody, liberals, conservatives, Republican, Democrat, that Dick Durbin is not only pro-abortion, but he is pro-partial birth abortion. And if you don't know what that is, Google it. It'll make you sick. It'll make you want to throw up. And he is for that. The Democrats have come out in Washington with their plan, and their plan is, if we get reelected, we're going to raise taxes. Durbin is behind that. He will raise your taxes. And you know what? He did. Not one Democrat voted for the tax cut that Trump put into place. And that includes Durbin. This is one of those elections where you should ask yourself the question that Ronald Reagan told you to ask yourself in 1980. Are you better off? Ask yourself, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And if the answer is yes, then you need to vote for him. Vote for the Republican who's going to run against Durbin, because the Republicans are the one that brought you the tax cut. The Republicans are the ones that are bringing you all the jobs. The Republicans are the one that is bringing you the cutting of the regulation. The Republicans are the one that have brought us safety in the world. The Republicans who are the ones that are bringing the jobs back to our country. The Republicans are the ones that are bringing all of that money from overseas back here. The Republicans are the ones that are trying to build the wall. Durbin doesn't want the wall built. Durbin wants to raise your taxes. Durbin believes in partial birth abortion. Under Durbin, we had Obamacare. Under Durbin, we had higher taxes. Under Durbin, the businesses left this country. Under Durbin, the coal business was all but out of business. Under Durbin, manufacturing jobs were going to Mexico and overseas. Remember that when Durbin comes up for re-election. Durbin is the one that has been fighting for gun control. He is anti-Second Amendment. Now, he plays footloose and fancy-free with the facts. But the fact of the matter is, any gun control legislation you could think up, Durbin will support. Durbin has been behind the Russian investigation by Mueller, when everybody in the country outside of Washington knows there was no collusion between Trump, his administration, and anybody in Russia. However, what we do know is that the Democrats were in collusion, and we have proof of that. The uranium deal, giving 20% of our uranium to Russia, that happened from the Democrats colluding with the Russians. Bill Clinton taking $500,000 for a speech in Russia as bribery to get the uranium deal done so Hillary would vote for it. We know that's fact. But Mueller's not looking there. Durbin and the Democrats in the Senate have not accomplished a single thing. All they do is say no, 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 no. They haven't done anything. They have nothing to show for it. Durbin has been up there, and all he's done is say no, and he's wasting Illinois' vote in the Senate. That needs to change. We need to have a senator up there that's going to work for the American people and not for their own private club and their own party. And the Democrat, and for Durbin, their battle cry is party first, people last. Under Trump and the Republicans, it's been country first, people second, party last. As I said earlier, Durbin was pro-Obamacare, and it still is. We need to dump Durbin. I remember when Durbin was first elected to the House, and he played dirty to beat Paul Finley. Paul Finley was a good guy, and Durbin brought in money from around the country from Jewish organizations, actually, and dumped millions and millions of dollars here against Paul Finley and won. And even with all that, he barely won, but he won. And now, which is kind of payback to the Jews, he is anti-Jew, which is the same stand all the Democrats have taken, including Obama and his administration. We need to dump Durbin. The second part of that hashtag is remove Rauner. Now, it was hard for me, and I will admit this because I am a Tea Party person. When Rauner ran the first time, he was talking like a Tea Party conservative. He was talking about balancing the budget, freezing property taxes, cutting taxes, fixing the retirement system, redoing the school system so that Chicago didn't get a disproportionate share of the money. I mean, these were all important issues in Illinois, and he was talking the right talk. So he gets in there and jumps right into the budget, which is fine. And there was a stalemate. For almost 2 years, we ran without a budget. And every day the story was how Rauner is ruining the state because he won't negotiate with Madigan and the Chicago Democrats to get an unfair budget. And he fought him. And I supported him in that. No budget is better than a bad budget, in my opinion. So I supported him. Then the school system started to complain that it was running out of money. Now, because we have unions in this country, in this state, that are very powerful, and because he was afraid that schools would close down and he would be blamed, he blinked first. Now, politically speaking, I understand why he did something. What I don't understand is why he did what he did. We went without a budget. He put up with all of that for a year and a half, from the press, from the people, from his party, from the Democrats. He went through all of that. And what he came out the other end was this. The Chicago schools got more money than they were even asking for. The state legislature raised their spending by 5% and raised the income taxes on all Illinoisans 5%. I have no idea what he thought he was getting. I do remember when he said, when they asked him what he got out of the deal, he said, well, he got a voucher system for the private schools. In other words, he got nothing. The Democrats got everything. He got nothing. And he sold us out. He sold us out. The budget they passed was more of a liberal Democrat budget than anything any of his predecessors had come up with. It was unbelievable. Now, follow that right on the heels with a bill that was brought up for Medicaid in the state of Illinois to pay for abortions. So that means if poor females want to get an abortion in the state of Illinois, the state's going to pay for that. And that means that includes all the Christians. I am anti-abortion, and yet my tax dollars are going to pay for these abortions. I am outraged at that, and he signed the bill. Again, how much more of a liberal policy could there possibly be? Now, if you ask him and you ask the majority of Republicans in the state of Illinois, they will say that Mike Madigan is the problem. He is wielding too much power as a Democratic leader of the House, and he is the longest serving House leader in history in the country, as far as I know. And he does wield immense power. And because he's been around so long, he knows how to play the game. He has beat Rauner at every step. When Tea Party people talk about a rhino, R-I-N-O, rhino, it means Republican in name only, rhino. If you were to look that up on Google, Bruce Rauner's name should be there. I cannot think of one vote, one piece of legislation that Rauner has managed to get done that is, I won't even say conservative. Let's just go Republican. Not one. But I can name an arm length of uh, parts of legislation that is liberal Democrat, not just Democrat, but liberal Democrat. Paying for abortions at the top of the list. Has still gotten nothing on freezing property taxes. We have the highest in the country. And in the city that I live in, they're talking about raising them again. When you look at the list of what should have been accomplishments, that should have been victories for the Republicans and for the Rauner administration, we got nothing. We have got nothing. In fact, I would even argue having a Democrat in the governorship would have been a better idea. At least with the Democrats, you know what you're dealing with. I mean, at least if we knew that we were going to have a Democrat in there, we as citizens of Illinois could vote more Republicans in the House and Senate. But I have been saying now for years that the Republican and Democratic Party as we know them is gone. Donald Trump, I believe, nailed the final nail in the coffin. We do not have Republican and Democrats anymore. We have establishment and Tea Party. Rauner is an establishment rhino Republican. He's got to go. I would prefer to have a conservative Democrat in there than Rauner. Rauner has screwed us every step of the way. We as the Tea Party, we as conservatives, we as evangelicals, we as Christians, we should be outraged at Bruce Rauner. Absolutely outraged. And I am. And that's why I have done the hashtag dump Durbin, remove Rauner. These guys are absolutely worthless. In fact, I would argue they are a bane on the society in Illinois. They are implements of evil. They've done not one decent thing for the American people or for the people of Illinois. Neither one of them. And they've got to go. Now, I do not I do not want to be seen as being only negative. I have been encouraging now for about a year that what the Tea Party needs to do is to take back control of the Republican Party. And the way to do that is to go find and promote good Tea Party candidates. And here in Illinois, the Illinois Tea Party has done an outstanding job. They have found a Republican representative from Illinois. Her name is Jean Ives, I-V-E-S. She is a former military. She is former West Point graduate. Her degree is in economics. She is an outstanding Tea Party person. Now, I want to tell you, I want to show you this. This is a local, extremely liberal rag here in Central Illinois. It's called the Illinois Times. And can you see that down at the bottom? Jean Ives, GOP insurgency. Okay, the Illinois Times is an ultra left-wing publication. Every article in here is anti-American, anti-Republican, anti-conservative, anti everything that is good. Okay. So when I saw this article, I thought this was going to be a hack piece on her. It is not. And I was so impressed that they did this article in this way without being their normal vindictive selves, that I'm going to cover this article to let you know the quality of individual that Jeannie Ives is and why she deserves our vote. Now, I do not know her personally. In the call of full disclosure, I know very little about her except what I've read and what I do know about her public life. But she appears to be the perfect Tea Party candidate. And I want to go over some of the things and how she sees things. Now it starts out talking about Rauner is self-funding he's a wealthy individual, and he has got $55 million in his war chest already of his money, and Jean Ives has only been able to raise $3 million. So Rauner has outraised her 18-1 on the money. So that doesn't necessarily mean victory, but in the rough and tumble world of Illinois politics, more money means more negative ads. So there is one way that we can help Jeannie Ives in this last day's push. If you can help her, send her some cash quickly, so that she can push those ads out that last day. So I'm going to read excerpts from this and expand on it as we go. For many GOP social conservatives, the turning point was when Rauner signed House Bill 40, a measure providing taxpayer funding for some elective abortions. Okay, when they say elective, that means whether you need one or not, the state of Illinois will pay for those. So now here's some of the Republican leaders here in Illinois that are backing her. Multiple Republican state lawmakers, Springfield Catholic Bishop Thomas Poprocki, which is unusual. Catholics tend to be very liberal, but I think he jumped on board because of the abortion issue. Chicago Cardinal Blase Kupich, all have said Rauner promised them that he would veto the abortion funding measure. When questioned during a joint appearance with Ives before the Chicago Tribune editorial board, Rauner did not directly answer whether he had made such assurances. I have no doubt at all that Rauner made those promises. He promised us that he wanted to balance the budget, that he didn't want Chicago to get more schools. He promised that right up front, and he lied on all accounts. The governor is a liar and is in time for Illinoisans to seek new leadership, I've said. The Democrats hope Bruce Rauner is the nominee because they know that they can beat him, and I believe that's true. I believe that if Rauner gets the nomination, he will lose and we will have a Democratic governor. That's too bad. but I believe that's true. People didn't think Donald Trump could win either, and we proved them wrong. I believe Jeannie can win. Ives launched her campaign October 28, and last month she caught statewide attention with a controversial video advertisement. Now, I have not seen this video, but I've heard this talked about many times, and I'm going to tell you here how they described it. Thank you, Bruce Rauner, for signing legislation that lets me use the girls' bathroom, says a man wearing a dress. Thank you for making all Illinois families pay for my abortions, said a woman wearing a pink pussy cat hat, like those men, like those seen in anti-Trump rallies. Another man with a bandana over his face thanked the governor for making Illinois a sanctuary state for illegal immigrant criminals. Oh yeah, I forgot. That's another Democrat thing he did. He signed legislation making Illinois a sanctuary state. Unbelievable. Does that sound like something a Republican governor would do? There's only 2 or 3 states in the union. California is one, and Illinois is 2. I don't even think New York has gone that way, or Florida. In 2013, Ives voted against the measure that made same-sex marriage legal in Illinois. Oh yeah, I forgot about that one too. And she drew fire from gay rights groups when, during a Catholic conference of Illinois radio interviews, she called gay couples disordered, adding that those couples are trying to weasel their way into acceptability. I think that's exactly right. And again, Governor Rauner signed legislation making same-sex marriage legal in Illinois. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Bruce Rauner is in a tough situation. He has alienated the conservative base, and moderates are unhappy with him too, Garcia said. Jeannie Ives will be the beneficiary of those people's disillusionment. In this business, all one has is their word. And Bruce Rauner not only lied, but he lied to important people. How can anyone ever trust him again, he said. Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. But because Rauner has so much money and so much pull, he's been able to keep a lot of these things secret, and he did them far enough back that the memory of the American people might not be long enough. He might be able to weather the storm and pull it out. But I promise you one thing: if he gets past Ives, he will lose, and he will lose because the Democrats will throw just as much money at him, and they will make these things stick. Ives said the state needs to be looking at the large cuts to programs and wholesale reforms if it plans to right the fiscal ship. Now, for those of you that don't know anything about Illinois finances, we have the worst economy in the union. We have the largest budget deficit. We have the largest unfunded pension deficits in the country. It's we are on the verge of filing bankruptcy. In fact, several months ago, there was a big thing into asking the government if we were allowed to file bankruptcy. That's how bad it is. And they've raised taxes twice. At both times, they've raised the spending. Not a dime of it has gone to reduce the deficit. And that's what happens when you have Democrats in charge. And unfortunately, this time, Rauner is in there when he signed the last tax increase. Jeannie goes on to say, I would start with Medicaid. I would seek a waiver from the federal government, I've said. I'd attack eligibility. I would ensure that single, able-bodied adults have to work to receive those benefits. I would also move to make sure Medicaid is only available to those most in need. That was the whole purpose of the program in the first place. It's been under the liberals and under the Democrats that they have raised those minimums to where working couples can get Medicaid. I know of several off the top of my head where they are working, but yet they get Medicaid. Ives also is calling the state mandated consolidation of school districts. She would merge elementary school districts with high school districts. She also would merge neighboring rural school districts. By merging the school districts, it would reduce the number of districts and increase the likely fairer distribution of the funds. So where if you consolidate a district and you have 4 elementary schools in each district, that's you are trying to support 8 different schools. If you consolidate them and you get down to 5 or 6 schools, you just save the money and upkeep on 3 schools. And if you do that throughout the state, throughout the districts, and throughout K through 12, the savings would be astronomical. I think that's perfect. That would save on the state side and the local property tax side. In Illinois, we can't just do small cuts. We need to do massive reforms on the way we do business. That should have happened over time. That's exactly right. We got into this mess because the Democrats, inch by inch, have absolutely bastardized our economy. Illinois recently went from the 4th to the 5th most populated state in the country, and Pennsylvania just passed us. And it's not because Pennsylvania is growing, it's because massive numbers of Illinoisans are leaving the state because of the tax system and because of the business climate. Businesses have left Illinois in droves. Caterpillar, who is the largest manufacturing employee in Illinois, was threatening to leave a couple of years ago and was talked out of it temporarily. But it's the taxes, it's the regulations that is killing them. And when Democrats are in charge, that's the order of the day. Ives contends that the state's underfunded pension system is the area in most need of reform. I agree. The first thing I would do is have new employees move into a 401k style retirement plan. Absolutely. If that's good enough for the private segment, why isn't that good enough for our employees or state employees? Absolutely. New employees coming in, that ought to be mandated without even thinking about it. While it wouldn't help us with our underfunded pension liabilities, it closes off the digging of the hole. You're signaling to bondholders, residents, and businesses that you are going to stop making their problem worse. Absolutely. Absolutely. It stops the madness here where it's at instead of every new employee that signs up is one more shovelful of dirt burying the system. It is not an easy job. That's why I'm saying it will take me 2 years to get a handle on the agencies and start to roll back the tax increase. We need to hyper focus on running agencies more efficiency with no cost off overruns. Amen. Amen. Rauner is sending out mailers that are absolute falsehoods about Ives. He is saying she is House Speaker Mike Madigan's best buddy. That's a lie. As I live here in Illinois, I know that's a lie. The danger she faces is if she doesn't have enough money to answer back those lies. If that's the case, then she will get buried by the spending. And that's exactly right. As I said earlier, Rauner has outraised her 18-1. And he's spending that money lying about her, which is terrible. But she's got to have the money to fight back. So if you're in Illinois, donate. If you're outside of Illinois, donate. Get the money to her as quick as possible. I'm sure she has the ads ready to go. All she's waiting for is financing to be able to pay for those ads. Redfield said, if Ives were to win the governorship, she would be the most conservative person to have served in that office for at least 50 years. And I promise you one thing, even with Madigan in office, if she were to overturn that and go ahead to be governor, there would be massive changes along the way. If she rides Trump's coattails into the governorship, she'll take some Republicans with her to the House and the Senate, and things will start to change, no doubt. They're talking about her degree. I'll just read it. She's a real policy wonk. Her degree from West Point is in economics, and she really knows her stuff. So, dump Durbin, remove Rauner, elect Jeannie Ives. Now, I like to end these programs by bringing up some current events that are going on, and this has been kind of a big week. Three things I want to talk about that happened this week. Steve Hawkins died. He was a physicist, a well-known atheist. He was an evolutionist. Now he died from complications from ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. He died at 76 years old. He's the longest living human with that disease. He had kind of a variation of the normal ALS, but he did have it. Led the longest life of anyone that's had that. And he had some weird things. Everybody says he was so brilliant, but this brilliant guy was all about theories. He said that the planet would be uninhabitable in less than 200 years, and that in order for us to survive, we had to colonize another planet. Sounds like he was watching Superman to me. But so he was all behind colonizing Mars or the moon. He also said there was no God. He now knows that's not true, but for 76 years he preached that there was no God. Now, another thing that happened this week is Rex Tillerson, who was the Secretary of State, was fired by Donald Trump. And Pompeo, who was the head of, I believe, the CIA, becomes Secretary of State. Now, Rex Tillerson was fired for a couple of reasons. He did not agree with Trump on very many issues. He supported the Iran nuclear agreement. Trump wants it gone. Tillerson wanted him to back off of sanctions against Russia. Trump did not. Tillerson wanted to go soft on Russia or China over the North Korean dictator. Trump did not. He was all in. Tillerson was trying to soft pedal foreign relations, and frankly, I can't believe he got the job in the first place. We had 8 years of that with Obama, and all it made us is look like little girls on the world stage. And that's one of the reasons that the guy in North Korea, known as a Cabbage Patch Kid, or as Trump likes to call him, the little rocket man, the only reason he wants to come to the table and talk is because the way Trump has handled him got the message across. 8 years of Obama didn't mean anything, but less than a year of Trump and little rocket man gets the picture. Now, this last one goes to a couple of weeks of stories that I was doing on the public schools. And this week, the public schools have allowed the kids to walk out for support for the killed kids in that shooting. Now, here's what I hope. I know this is never going to happen, but I hope that somewhere in some school, some kid stands up and says, hey, if we're allowed to get out of schools to protest guns, then I want to protest abortions. So I'm going to get out of school and I'm going to organize and get as many people as I can to get out of schools to protest abortion or protest gay rights or protest gay marriage. But see, that's never going to happen. But yet this week, the public school systems, with, one or two exceptions, allowed these kids to walk out of school to protest. Why? Because the schools are all left wings. They're all liberals. Sure, we'll give you a day off. In fact, we'll give you an A in class and mark your attendances here. Just go out and protest. Here's what that tells me. It tells me that our schools are not about teaching, they're about indoctrinating. These kids are exactly that. They're kids. They don't even understand what the whole arguments are about. Most of them don't even know that it's in the Constitution and what it was put there for. And if you don't know the basics, you have no business opening your mouth. And here's how I look at it. I think that the school administrators are pimping out our kids for political purposes. The school administrators, the politicians, the teachers, everybody up that chain are all liberal Democrats. They all want gun control. And everybody knows that. So what do? They're going to pimp out our kids. Hey, yeah, you're under our control. I'm telling you, go out there and go earn us some votes. Get out there and go show yourself to the American people. Get on TV. Do violence. Do whatever it is you have to do, but you get us some votes. That sounds like pimping out to me. Substitute sex for gun violence, and that's what our kids were doing. They were pimped out by educators, and I use that term very loosely. I guess I should start saying indoctrinators and administrators. They pimped out our kids for political purposes. I think that's abominable. I can't believe they did it. I can't believe they got away with it. I can't believe nobody has stood up and said, hey. I hope the pro-life movement has got some people somewhere in every single state making arrangements for a nationwide walkout on school for pro-life. Well, that's a program for today. I think that's about all I wanted to talk about. Just an announcement before we go. If you'd like to know a little bit more about us and what we do all of these programs on this and on Facebook. And the people that do it are called Prayer Box Ministry. You can go to our website at prayerboxministry.org. That's an interactive website over there. Go over there and take a look at it. There's a lot you can do over there. You can have somebody read the Bible to you. You can watch videos. You can listen to our programs being streamed over there. You can join a prayer group. There's all kinds of things to do over there. Go over and check us out, prayerboxministry.org. That's org.org. Well, that's a program, everyone. You have a blessed week. I look forward to next week when we can sit down and talk about this week in politics.